I'm recording.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm sorry, people who are watching this. This is very all over the place.
This is like all over the place. It's time.
Yeah,
It is character.
You didn't get to see it, but we studied.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you just scroll up real quick so that it's actually, what am I talking? I was like, if you scroll up, you can go back in time, and we can just kind of like that. Can just go back. I'm so sorry. I'm really. Can we just, okay, do what you're
It's
doing.
fine. If you want to like explain the participant bias again, that's what
Okay.
you want to do.
Oh my god, I can do it again, and I'll probably ramble again.
There you go. We
but-
can go back in time now.
Oh, since
Yeah.
you're the one who's confused about it, you should explain it because you always know.
Oh, okay.
You
bet?
explain it. Yes.
I learned this method in scouting. It's like somebody explains it to you, and then you make them repeat it back to you so that you know if they understood it. Okay, here we go.
I'm so smart.
So correct
brain.
me if I am wrong. Okay, so I think acquiesce. This one. Hold on. Let me.
Acquiesce, I think.
Can you guys see me when I spotlight that?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I couldn't say purposive, but I think it's acquiesce. So take that with a grain of salt.
This bias. Yes, that
Mhm.
one. That one. Okay. So basically, I think that one is when you're like asking a question. It's like, do you think like hate crime is bad? And then obviously somebody would say yes, hate crime is bad. So you don't really like get like it's already like a question that is directed the participants to give positive answers.
That might kind of also be a good example of sensitivity bias, because hate crimes and stuff like that, the word sensitive is super ambiguous. So I think the question used is really good. I think you could also kind of use that for sensitivity because it's a sensitive topic, race and whatever. So, all right, go off. Sorry.
But is that like correct for that?
Yeah,
bias?
I think so. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I think someone said a good example. They were like, if you're kind of leading them on, and you're like, so like the example you used was good. It might have been like, oh, do you think incredibly violent and terrible hate crimes are destroying buildings? Do you think they're good for a community? Like something like that. But
obviously
less
somebody
negative.
wouldn't say
Yeah.
no, I think that is correct. Like
Yes.
no one would say that unless they want to get arrested.
Well, actually, no, I gave a bad answer. So this is positive, and I give a super negative answer, a super negative example. So I think specifically for acquiesce, I'm so sorry, it's my fault. I think specifically for acquiesce bias, I guess a good example would be like,
like, do
oh
you?
my god,
right?
Yes, yeah. Or it's like, look at this incredibly positive thing that's happening in the community, and I'm going to use a lot of really positive adjectives. Now you tell me if you think that's good or not. And so like the person will probably say no. Like, so you should be more neutral about it in the way that you specifically phrase the questions, I think.
I remember this one example she gave in class, which was like, do you think exercise is good? And like, that's a very broad question. So like, obviously everyone's going to say yes. So it's very like leading, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Like to watch a sport or to like do a sport or sports in general, it's very general.
So like, I think it's specifically, like everyone was saying, it's about specifically the type of question and how you ask the question more than anything else for acquiesce bias.
Okay, and then for social desirability bias, it's basically when like the participants or like the subjects, they're acting in a way that they think the study wants them to behave, which is, but it's also maybe like it can also happen because like they're just the researchers asking about like a sensitive topic, and they just wanna like, even if they have a different opinion, they're gonna go with the opinion that they think the researcher wants them to have.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for dominant response bias, it's basically sort of like peer pressure that happens usually in group settings, like focus groups. And so if like one or two people like who are very passionate about something, like I can tell sometimes this happens in like Socratic seminars where like people are just like, oh, I think this, and then the other people are just gonna be like, oh, I actually think something different about that, but I'm not gonna say it because the most popular answer is what they're saying. So they're just going to like influence how people are responding to it. Okay, and then sensitivity bias it also works for the thing I said earlier about like hate crime and stuff, where like well, I guess it doesn't work that way. I'm still confused on this one. So basically, like, if they're not gonna answer properly, like if you ask them something very sensitive, obviously.
I remember the example she gave for this one. So she had said, have you ever been abused? Like that was one of the examples she gave. And if you give that example, like just out of the gate, abuse, that's a really heavy word. So some people may not give the correct, they may not give an honest response. But if you ask them something like, has your partner ever yelled at you? Has your partner ever like, hit you or something, then they're more likely to, because they're just answering simple questions rather than the loaded word abuse. Like it's all about wording. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best example, but I remember she gave that one.
That makes sense. And then for researcher bias, like confirmation biases. Okay, we haven't gone through this yet. Nidhi, can you explain, please?
Yes, sir. So this, like it says in the underlying part, this is kind of going to be in pretty much every experiment. So, and it's kind of like the researcher, it's what we've all been saying before. It's like they might use intentionally leading questions, or like basically they create an environment or they use questions that they are kind of leading the experiment in the direction they want it to go. So they're not letting the results be neutral. They want a specific result, so whether unintentionally or intentionally, they're going to lead the experiment to that result instead of letting the results let the experiment lead them to the answer or whatever. That was janky, my bad. And then question order bias. This one's pretty like quote unquote unique. Like I think it's like an easy / okay one to remember. And it's exactly what it says. It's when all the questions you ask kind of relate to each other and lead into each other. I think the example she gave in class, somebody can be more like specific, but it was the political one, and it was like I thought it was kind of question order bias, and it might be like, oh, like do you plan to vote, or it's like which party do you prefer, and stuff like that. And eventually, like the questions you're asking aren't neutral, and they aren't going to give you the right results because all of them kind of lead into each other. And slowly and steadily, like the participant is giving accurate answers because they're answering the question based on the previous question. If that was kind of weird and twisty, so if you need me to like explain it better, I can. And
wait, is that like similar to, remember when we took the test, and was it the test or some experiment that they told us about was I think it was the test, the one where it was like they asked a series of questions to find out about their moral, I forgot the word. It was like to find out if their morality was lining up with their actions. So they would ask like about their morality and then ask them about their actions.
I think we had different tests. I think we had different tests.
It was like
yeah,
we had different tests.
Yeah, we had one about cars.
So, okay. Yeah. So basically, ours was about like, what was it? A test? It was like about water conservation.
It was the test for sure. I remember it because I forgot the word that they used, but they're trying to make sure that you made the connection between your morality and your actions, and if they didn't line up or if they did. So they specifically asked you first about your morality and then your actions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's similar to that, the question order bias.
What's it called? I completely forgot I had a question. Okay, can you continue, Nidhi?
Yes. Okay. So sampling bias has to do with the participants in the testing group, and it's really similar to selection bias, which we kind of talked about before, but might have not been recording or whatever. So it's similar to selection bias, and the first type is self-selection bias, and it's when it's similar to convenience sampling, kind of, or yeah, I think is convenience sampling the one where it's volunteers, or is it self-selected? I don't know. Okay, cool.
Self-selected is
um,
the volunteer one. Convenience is my friend. I'm gonna get my friend.
Oh, cool. Let's take people near you. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, self-selection bias is volunteers, and that's not representative because it's not representative because the sample size probably won't be large enough depending on the experiment. And if you're just choosing volunteers, you're not really getting an accurate representation of the population you're trying to test because it could just be a completely girl, completely boys, whatever. Yeah. Yes. What's up?
I'm confused because she said that wasn't really a problem when we're doing qualitative.
Oh my god, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
Oh, okay.
Like she said that like sampling, you don't really have to worry about like representation.
Yeah,
Okay.
represent the general population because you're only focusing on like this one group and you're not seeing how it transfers to the entire population.
I guess I don't know if it works as well like vice versa, that maybe the reason like that you can't really generalize it that well is because most of them will have self-selection bias, I guess.
I think you're right. Sorry, thank you for stopping me. I just like representation is just so easy to like use for the test.
Oh, I was just you were just asking because like we didn't know if you knew something else. Like I don't know why they would like why she would tell us about self-selection bias when she said that it's not really a
maybe you should ask her in class because I am also kind of confused because I'm just going with the assumption that like representativeness is always something you need to look out for, and so like I would appreciate it, like you should ask her probably because I was also like, okay, well, why is she including sampling if the main part of sampling isn't something we're going to use? So thank you. Oh, and I think bias reporting is like just bias reporting, and it's when they kind of omit details from the report to kind of match their results.
Would it be kind of similar sort of to like experimental mortality? I know it's like it's not basically the same thing, but people might be led to might be led to bias reporting because of experimental mortality.
Experimental mortality would lead to bias reporting. Like let's say you wanted to fill in the gaps, I feel like that would be like a chain reaction type thing. So also bias reporting. Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
Would these biases like would they work for each other? Like some of them?
I feel like we shouldn't make them interchangeable. Just what you learn for qualitative, keep it with qualitative. What you learn for quantitative, with quantitative.
Sorry.
Also, bias reporting. Oh, sorry.
Was taking a selfie over there.
Also, for bias reporting, a way that you could remember bias reporting is, I know a lot of us do that for our science fair projects. If you know, so like that's a really easy way.
This is recorded.
It's okay. We don't have science fair anymore.
Yeah, so that's fine.
I am so happy.
Oh, what's
about
done
that,
is done.
I'm confused. What is mortality? Something.
Experimental mortality is like.
Wait, I just remembered. But explain it anyway.
Okay, so it's when like there are too many people that dropped out of the experiment that you don't have in like a big enough or a good enough sample size to like actually get proper results, I guess.
Oh my god, go off, Lois.
And we talked about that when we were talking about quantitative studies, right?
Sort of. I guess one thing that it's similar to like the what's this thing called, the confirmation bias, is that both of them can't really be avoided because like the only way you can avoid it is like prepare properly, because for experimental mortality you just have to like kind of make sure that the participants aren't going to want to like take their information out.
Or like account for people, like what will happen if they withdraw, or like, and I agree, just make sure the experiment isn't like ethically terrible enough for people to want to drop out.
And it's like the same thing with confirmation bias, because you can't really avoid it unless you prep your researchers to like be very careful with their words. Okay.
If you use robots, you can avoid it.
We love that. You solved it all. Every single every single research ever done.
Every single bias.
Write that on my test. Just robots. Close it.
Let's just replace everyone with androids, and we've solved all of this. No bias, no withdrawals.
No bias. They have no opinions.
You can't have bias if there are no opinions.
You did it.
Okay. So for these.
Oh my god, that's what I was talking about. My bad.
So for these, I was do we pick one of these questions or do we use all of them? And
No,
then...
these are the
It's asking them like all
questions.
together.
Oh,
That's
so
a
it's
good
like
first
These are the
an
questions that they
interview?
asked.
Okay. So and
I
then
can
you
tell
pick...
you. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm so
right?
sorry. I forgot this is your homework. Sorry.
I want to work it out.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm like, let me tell you all the answers. My bad. Thank you.
You tell me all the answers. I don't know about Lois. Lois, just plug yours real quick. It's okay.
Okay. So basically,
No,
for
Lois
this,
got this. Lois is
it's
good. She
kinda-
needs my help. Also, I
it's
did
kind
this
of
at 12
like-
a.m. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you. Go
It's
ahead.
fine, it's fine. It's kind of like an interview, right? And these are like the questions that they're asking you. So one of them might be, I don't know if I haven't like read this properly yet enough to know. Like one of them might be like the question order thing. the
Yeah,
question
that's what I
order
thought.
bias, because there's
Mhm.
like it might direct you to answer the
Yeah.
other thing and stuff like
I
that.
thought
So
the first
basically-
one. Yeah, I thought the first one was do you agree to responsibility of all citizens to make informed choices? And the last one, have you already determined who you're voting for? Is kind of like based on how this person answers question 1, they're going to change their answer for question 3, because if they say I do think it is, how can they answer question 3 differently? You know,
Mhm.
that's what I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm like doing a weird thing.
I can
Wait,
tell
did you
you-
repeat that?
So I thought it was question bias, because for the first one it's saying, do you agree with that it is the responsibility of all citizens to make informed choices? And what if they ask question 3 after that, which is, have you already determined who you're voting for? I thought since you already asked them, hey, is it your responsibility? If the person answers yes for question 1, I think they'll be more inclined to answer yes for question 3, because they just said that it was their responsibility. So how can they say no? That's what I thought.
Okay,
I
got
could be wrong.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
I guess most of the biases that they explained up there is kind of like a lot of them can apply to these questions. I haven't really looked at them yet, but like just based on like just the fact that they have questions already, like makes me think of like question order bias, and then like the way that the researcher worded these is it going to like affect how they say it. And for like suggesting it, we don't have to answer it like we would for like the IB questions, right? We're just answering
No.
like we would. Okay.
Or I don't think so. I just kind of answered it like we've been doing. So I don't know. Like
Just
it doesn't
like
have to be extensive.
Yeah, just honestly, I mean, I did it extensive because that's just me, but honestly, yeah, just identify, describe, and then suggest. Just like do what
Yeah.
it says, honestly.
Okay.
You can use it for practice maybe, like Mira was saying, and you could act like it's an IB test. But I think that as long as you do like it's
Yeah,
homework.
that's what I did. I mean,
so.
it's for your benefit, so I would do it, you know,
Mhm.
if you have time.
That's all my questions about this.
Okay.
Do you guys have any other questions, or else like we can ask Nidhi to stop?
Real good. It's been like an hour. This is good. This is a good time. This really helped me out, Lois, with the bias thing. So I'm glad you asked that question. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording then.